Dear viewers, welcome to yet another episode of Expert Speaks. When it comes to question of inheritance planning, estate planning, any amount of care is less. More and more you look into it and you could avoid problems later on. If you are under the impression that mistakes can happen only at the ordinary person's level where ignorance, negligence is common, but if somebody has lots of money, they don't do mistake, probably you're not right. There are countless cases we get to hear from the celebrities, from businessmen, where people have done mistakes and it has created enormous amount of trouble in their lives as well. In this episode, we are going to talk to expert of the week, chartered accountant, Mr. Nikhil Varghese, to take us through some of the very prominent celebrity cases where small mistakes done by them resulted in unbearable disputes in the family. This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I am Dr. Chandrakant, but your financial guide for a happy living.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
To talk about how important the estate planning is and how meticulously you should go through it, and to learn from the mistakes done by others, we have dedicated this episode to look into some of the prominent celebrity cases which have gone wrong when it comes to question of estate planning. To talk about this, the guest on the show today is Mr. Nikhil Varghese. Mr. Nikhil Varghese is co-founder of a startup called Yellow, which is dedicated to estate planning. Mr. Nikhil Varghese is a chartered accountant by profession. He has appeared on our channel multiple number of times. He has been working with the big four auditing firms. He has also headed the South India division for a wealth management company when it comes to question of estate planning. Welcome again, Mr. Nikhil Varghese, to this particular show.
Thank you for having me again, Dr. Bhatt. Super excited to discuss this topic because I'm sure this will raise certain eyebrows for the audience today.
Mr. Nikhil, audience may be under the impression that the mistakes can happen with the ordinary people. It will not happen when it comes to question of learned people, businessmen, people with lots of money. They have lawyers, chartered accountant, inheritance specialists to guide them. In spite of them, we have heard about sensational cases in many of the families. You have studied these in detail to make sure that your clients don't go through the same kind of a trouble. And can we pick up certain celebrity cases today? One of the most discussed case in the public domain is the case of Raymond owner, Mr. Vijaypat Singhania. Can you take us through this family's estate planning mistakes that they have done and what things followed later?
Of course, that's something which you can definitely look at. Even before you get to the case itself, I like the point that you made saying that, common man believes that people who have everything, every armor at their end, have everything sorted, right? And more importantly, if they can't sort it, think about common man when you don't have so much bandwidth at your end to take care of things, how difficult things are going to be. And therefore, it becomes very important to plan for these things well in advance. That being said, let's jump into the case of Singhanias, right? The Raymond family case, where the whole case itself is pretty complex, right? It started much earlier than, the whole aspects of what you're hearing in the media that, Mr. Vijaypat Singhania gifted the shares to Gautam and things went sour. But more importantly, we should go even before that and see what happened, right? So if you were to step back and see what's the background here, Mr. Vijaypat Singhania had two sons. One is Madhupati and Gautam. Both brothers actually didn't get along and almost clashed on every business decisions, be it management style, corporate governance, and business strategies in the beginning itself. And that things were not going absolutely well. And that itself is the starting of the conflict within the family. And that was the reason for some of these things which did happen.
We know about comments which are being circulated in the media when it comes to question of Gautam Singhania. But we haven't heard much about his estranged brother Madhupati. Can you take us through what happened in his case?
So yeah, great. So that's I think that'll give the broad planning, right? See, again, this again establishes that when you're planning, we should look at it holistically, not in a silo. And that's exactly what went wrong here, right? So Madhupati, like I said, was not in good terms with his brother, and therefore there were clashes. And eventually Madhupati took the call of saying he will estrange himself from the family. He took a one-time settlement and signed an agreement relinquishing his rights as well as those of his children to the family property and business, right? And after doing all of this, he took that one-time settlement. he moved to Singapore and lived off the settlement. That's exactly what he did, in the course of things. And that's why you'd never hear about Madhupati in the overall scheme of Raymond family case in the public.
Now, you have worked on a lot of cases. This settlement with Madhupati in the early phase of Mr. Vijay Singhania's case, did it influence the way he handled the settlement with Gautam?
Yes. So that was broadly, see, that is what has happened as a settlement was only the first step in the overall conflict, right? In 2015, if I recollect, Madhupati's children challenged the family agreement that Madhupati undertook on their behalf, right? They alleged that, no, they too had right in the family property and business, and arguing that, Vijaypat Singhania wasn't more so because it is not the first generation business, it's passed on from his father. And therefore, Vijaypat Singhania was not the founder of the family business, but was the son of the founder. And therefore, they claimed that their father had no right to enter into an agreement on their behalf. This is the children of Madhupati that I'm talking about. This legal challenge from the children of Madhupati prompted Vijaypat to gift close to whatever shares that he had, about 37% of his stake in Raymond Group, worth close to 1,000 crores, to his son Gautam. That was the starting point. He gifted everything to Gautam. He believed, by doing so, he's distancing his assets from his name to his son, and therefore, if there's any potential legal claims against him, none of that will sustain and safeguard his assets from Madhupati's children.
But what happened to the property dispute that was there?
So that's pretty much the starting of all the issues now that you hear in the media, right? All these were the backdrop of situations where the gifting happened. Once gifted, Gautam changed his stance in terms of how to go about, because he has got all the assets from his father, gifted everything, right? Then now the equation started to tumble down between both father and Gautam, which triggered pretty much with the JK houses. That's their home, where there's a luxury property in South Mumbai that was redeveloped into a high-rise, luxury property to house various family members, right? Then Vijaypat was supposed to get one of the, houses there, but, Vijaypat was accused, pretty much went back on the promise, saying that he couldn't allocate him a duplex apartment because this required board approval of, Raymond Group. Since Vijaypat was not a shareholder anymore, etc., these things needs to be approved. And therefore, things are stalled. He's not able to provide him with this duplex apartment. This pretty much brought about reality for, Vijaypat Singhania, right? Now saying he gifted all his assets to his son. Now suddenly he's being denied of whatever was promised. And this dispute led to Vijaypat filing a lawsuit against Gautam and Raymond Group, bringing their private, matters that was going all in the backdrop to public eye. And that's how we all got to know about the stance of saying that, hey, Vijaypat was gifted all the assets to Gautam, and now he's fighting the court battle for his life sustenance.
It only goes to say, whether it's a family member, whether it's a sibling, whether it's your children, when it comes to question of properties, assets, money matters, one has to be extremely careful and think what can go wrong, and proactively make sure that you consult the required professionals, ensure that your personal interests are never compromised under any kind of situation. The one other thing which is debated very widely in the public domain has been the case of Ambani's. Of course, it's not something which is discussed now, but when the senior Ambani left this world and it became talk of the town and it was there in news all the time. Can you take us through what actually happened in case of Ambani's? Was there a succession planning put in place, or is it the senior Ambani left without any will or anything like that?
No, this is great, right? And even before I jump into Ambani case, what is a quick takeaway that I would like to give to the audience from Singhania case would be that, gifting was not a wrong move. It was done in a hurry just to ensure that one aspect of protection is taken care of. That is, Madhupati's children filing a lawsuit. He wanted to protect these assets. Had he thought through holistically, probably could have gifted in a fashion that he could have retained these assets. In a way, if Gautam was not able to provide these assets, is there a way you could have revoked the gift deed and come back to him? What languages needs to be taken care of in the gift deed? All of these are aspects that perhaps he could have taken care of, which he didn't do because he did it in a hurry, only with one siloed, objective saying, I need to protect these assets from my grandchildren, right? That becomes extremely important for someone to plan. When you're looking at estate planning, look at it from a holistic perspective so that you see all the pros and cons and saying how you are, because end of the day, it's your asset. You need to see how you are protected. That's very important from tax and other possible leakages that could potentially happen. That being said, coming back to your point, Dr. Bhatt, is about Ambani's. Again, one of the prominent business houses in the country could have done things in the right fashion. But again, in this case, Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani passed away in 2002 and he didn't leave a will behind. It left a kind of a vacuum for both the Reliance industry itself, which is the business, and for Mukesh and Anil Ambani, right, his sons. And because they were involved in the business, and suddenly there's no clear path on who should take what, and a succession path is not laid out. This led to a public feud between both the brothers, saying now, because the technically assets gets distributed among the children and mother, and going through that process, what needs to be distributed, how these needs to be distributed, resulted in the family feud. And this dispute was not just about who led the company, but also about the vast, Reliance empire and how it would be divided amongst themselves. It involved everything from oil and gas to telecommunication and retail, everything that they were involved at that point in time. So that clear path of not giving a direction in terms of how the asset needs to be distributed led them to decide how the asset needs to be distributed. Each one have their own opinions, and that led to the overall family battle.
Finally, what happened in this case? It got resolved and there is visible peace. So how it finally resolved?
If you see this with every battles within the family, many a times ego takes precedence over actual logic, right? And that's pretty much what happened here. They went through the whole battle saying, I need so and so things. But end of the day, in every family battle, and there's no difference between a celebrity case or your common man's case, is that at some point when you're tired of the whole battle going through either, some sort of a out of court settlement happens. And that's broadly what happened here. After several years of, conflict, eventually a settlement was put together with the intervention of their mother, Kokilaben Ambani, right? This happened in 2005. The settlement essentially split Reliance empire between the two brothers. Mukesh retained, oil, gas, petrochemicals and refining operations, while Anil Ambani got the telecommunications, power generation and financial services business. However, the split was, since it was done in a fashion that was not fully thought through, the aftermath of the split was kind of continued even after the overall settlement was done. Both brothers, between the brothers, after years of the settlement, right? If you see today, it's a stark example of how the lack of clear succession plan can lead to a long-lasting family and business conflicts. You've seen this, and I think in the latest wedding, episodes that you have seen, that's when both the brothers have come together. Otherwise, you've never seen them in the same place otherwise, right? The whole aspect of money kind of split the entire relationship between the brothers. But over the course of the decades, things kind of ironed out between both brothers. Like we have seen the wedding, both came together. But one thing which is very clear for both brothers now is that they don't want to go through or rather they don't want their kids to go through the same trouble that they went through. They learned the lesson the hard way, right? The whole split, one business not going, one side of the family not doing extremely well, while the other doing superly well. All this could have been planned through, and with the right succession plan, everything could have gone in a right fashion. But having learned from those lessons, now both brothers have created a much robust plan for the next generation. Especially if I were to talk about from a Mukesh Ambani space, Jio, what he has done is that he has split his business between his three children this way: Jio and digital business with Akash. Isha takes care of retail businesses, and she was instrumental in launching Ajio. The rest of the power and oil, etc., rest with Anant Ambani, who is the one who recently got married.
Very interesting, Nikhil. We saw two cases. One, because of firefighting, how Raymond's got into trouble, mistake after mistakes. There is no good relationship within the family, children going against the father, brothers going against each other, and a very sad ending. And then the story of Ambani's, which was somehow resolved amicably, and the children took the business to the next level. A happy ending story. We have also heard about the sensational story of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. We have heard in the private circle that this is one of the classic cases of a well-done job. We have spoken about trust, creation of trust and other things. But when it comes to question of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, What we have heard is he created multiple trusts. Can you take us through the case example of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the meticulous planning, what he has done, and probably that would benefit my audience?
Absolutely. I won't get into complete nitty-gritty here, but let's look at how the whole scheme of things unfolded for Rakesh Jhunjhunwala compared to the rest, right? While Singhania's was more ongoing case, for Ambani's, it still resulted in business losses for the family. Learning from mistakes, they have kind of put together a path so that the next generation doesn't have to go through that path. Now, coming to Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, he was not only a legendary investor that it's known in the circles today, but also a prudent planner when it came to managing his wealth. Let's look at specifically what he did, right? In addition to creating a robust will, which he had in place, that is important. Like I've spoken about this in multiple conversations with you, that a robust will is a foundation of any estate plan. You have to have a will in place and then look at what else is needed beyond that, right? He had a robust will in place where he covered all aspects of his wealth to avoid any ambiguity. He also created multiple trusts, like you said. We won't get into the nitty-gritty of how, but all of it served different purposes for his family, and also talking about philanthropy, right? He wanted to give back something to society, so all those are meticulously planned through various trusts so that those aspects take care of. Now, it's only not putting together the plan, but also giving it life. That's also important. That's where the whole planning became even more beautiful in this case, is because particularly what is noteworthy is the choice of trustees that he made. One, he appointed Mr. Radhakrishnan Damani, again a well-known investor and his trusted friend, as trustee to his trust amongst the main trustee amongst the others. Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala also ensured that his estates would be managed by someone who understood his investment philosophy and values, and therefore choice of the right trustee becomes very, very important.
Nikhil, I understood this part, but Rakesh Jhunjhunwala had a lot of investment. While managing the assets at the family level could have been sorted out with this will and trust and everything, but continuity of those investments. See, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala is a genius. He would have purchased shares, different assets with a particular idea and with a time frame. Now, what could happen post his demise is that the next generation may not be as qualified, as interested, or as capable like Rakesh himself to handle these particular assets. How did he sort out this business holdings issues in that case?
It's a great question. Again, this all leads to forward thinking and meticulous planning, right? He actually planned for these aspects as well very well. Mr. Jhunjhunwala was known for his large portfolio of investments, like you said, across various companies, and he was instrumental in something like Titan, etc., where he invested much lower price and reaped the benefits of it, right? So in his estate plan, what he did is that he provided clear instructions on how these investments should be managed. This included stocks that he held for long term and which could be divested if needed. Clear instruction of when, what, how to go about this. He also made provisions for continuity of his, rare enterprise. That's the entity through which he made most of these investments, his asset management firm. So at this kind of having these provisions made in terms of how each of these aspects needs to be done, providing clear instructions in terms of how the financial, his portfolio needs to be managed, having those, what you typically see from an investment perspective, having that, investment portfolio scheme, or what you call an IPS, which is laid down saying how each investment needs to happen, how the portfolio needs to be managed. Everything was pretty much documented, all instructions given to the family, so that even, if they're not as savvy, we can't match his level, but at least his thought process was well documented so that the family can follow those instructions. Of course, having said that, if they're not great in managing it, the trustees that he appointed was extremely good in managing. You don't need to talk about Mr. R.K. Damani, right, of investment, how he goes about with investment. Having such stalwarts as trustees kind of takes care of his investments in the fashion that he would have otherwise taken care of.
Nikhil, this has been very, very interesting. We can discuss this on and on. There are countless cases that are available for us to discuss, but for the sake of keeping this video within the time limits what we have set forth, let our audience get a cues from the case studies that we have discussed. If you have assets, you have an intention to safeguard your future during the fag end of your life or post your demise, take due care, take the required action, think well before the incident really happens. Think about everything that can go wrong. Talk to the professionals. Make sure that your hard-earned assets are available to you when you need it, as well as they get passed on to their legal heirs without any complications post your demise. Thank you, Nikhil, for bringing all these points for the benefit of our viewers. We will remain in gratitude to you for your kindness to come on our show and share all these insights. Thank you very much, Nikhil.
You're most welcome, Dr. Bhatt. And like always, it's a pleasure to interact with your customers. These cases that we kind of spoke about are celebrity cases, but there are many such scenarios that would have, where things have gone wrong and where things have actually gone well. So the bottom line here is that, these cases indeed show how crucial it is to have a comprehensive and well thought out estate plan, regardless of the size of one's wealth or business, right? It's extremely crucial that you plan for it, because if you don't, then you're leaving the family in a limbo in terms of how to go about, resulting in disputes, so much of unclaimed, assets in the country, over 2 lakh crores of assets that you're talking about. More than 76% of the disputes in the country is out of property and family disputes. All of this can be streamlined, and what is rightfully the families can go to them easily in a seamless fashion by having a simple but thought through plan. And that's something which everybody should focus on.
Dear viewers, hope the video that I've done today helped you to understand how things can go bad even in case of celebrities, in spite of having all the assistance, all the means, every professionals at their disposal. Just neglecting a few things can create disaster in their life. If it helped you to understand and stress the point that you should do your estate planning well ahead of time in a very meaningful way, please do give me a thumbs up. If you are somebody who is yet to subscribe for this channel, please hit that subscribe button right now and press the bell icon. Do not forget to share these videos with your near and dear ones, friends and relatives, and on all the social media you are connected with. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you with yet another thought, with yet another expert next Tuesday. Till then, stay safe. Jai Hind.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.